And also setting standards, so that's kind of authentic leadership piece as well.
Yeah, behaviour of hands-on leaders then. They encourage experimentation rather than letting people's opinions dominate.
So I think like traditional, conventional advice is focus on vision. That's what leaders should do.
And I guess that's if we ever err on this one, it's getting too involved in execution. And part of the problem there is because you can.
So they say weak companies run transformation programs, whereas strong companies improve every day. I realised the other day I haven't done a dad joke for a while.
Don't say you've been saving them up. I don't think I've got the constitution to cope with more than one at a time.
I haven't been saving them up, but I did hear on I've probably given it away. I should have just said it really, shouldn't I? Rather than
now we're looking out for the joke.
Looking out for the
you
joke.
could drop it in halfway through the episode.
Well,
go on. Hit me with it.
So I was at the petrol station the other day, and clearly, prices are going up at the moment.
Yeah.
And then I went to put some air in the tyre, and the prices of that had gone up. And I looked at the bloke next to me and said, "Now that's inflation."
No way. I saw that coming. Just in that way that you think a car's going to hit you and you haven't got time to get out of the way. That is ridiculous. It's not even properly funny, is it?
It's not even, no.
You've done a lot better ones than that.
There is. I think I read it yesterday or something. I thought, okay, I could use that in the podcast.
Yeah.
Cringe dad joke.
Yeah. Well, we can homework for next week. Come up with some better ones.
Let's come up with a better one.
Right.
But that was shocking, yes, I know.
Okay. So where are we? Coming up for Easter. People are going to be going off on school holidays soon. Last minute ski trips and stuff. You've just been skiing. No, you're away.
I'm actually
You're away now.
I will be away when this comes out, yeah. I'll be away.
Well, I can't ask you how that went then. You'd have to make that up.
Probably going well, hopefully.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was skiing last week and it was very sunny. Very nice.
So, yeah. Kids at school again.
Did you get fined?
Haven't been so far.
Right. Do you think they'll listen to this podcast?
I've done it for 5 years now, so...
Well, the whole of Ethan's class listens to this, and then I'll be telling teacher to, "Oi, find Mr. Buckle."
So,
right.
We'll
after that first dad joke, I think we need to quickly escape into
Move on,
a
yes.
proper podcast. So I'm going to start one right now. Hello and welcome to another episode of the SME Growth Podcast from Wellmeadow. Thank you very much for joining us. Every week we try and come up with something useful and interesting for owners and managers of small and medium-sized businesses. And this week we're going to talk a bit about getting hands-on, getting your hands dirty. And what episode number are we on, Mr. Buckle?
165.
165. Have we given up on the dance finishes, or are we still hanging on in there on those?
That would be quite a darts finish, that, wouldn't it?
It would be quite a darts finish. I don't think you can do it.
Don't think you can do it, no.
No. Okay. We'll double check the facts on that, but I think we're in the clear. Okay, so 165. So as we normally do, let's run through. Now, you've confused me a bit recently because sometimes you go backwards through the last three, sometimes you go forwards for the last three. So I need a bit of summary on 162, 163, 164. What have you got?
So we'll ascend, as it were. So 162, how small teams can create big change.
That was inspired by the Rutger Bregman Reith lecture, talking about the abolitionists getting rid of the slavery trade. We weren't quite inspiring our listeners to do quite anything as that magnitude, but we were saying that even in a company where you don't feel you have ultimate power, you can still influence change.
That does remind me, I did promise a Predator Badlands podcast episode, so stand by your beds.
There was something else we promised in a recent
incoming
episode as well. We need to get back to and list up all our promises.
What we committed to.
I know, sorry if you're hanging on in there.
Undertaking the register or something.
Or whatever they were, yeah.
So that was 162, how small teams can create big change. 163, why policies are the guardrails of growth. Yeah,
do you think that was a yawn-inducing episode? I've actually shared it with a couple of people since and had that sort of reluctant to admit, yes, this might be useful sort of reaction, rather than the, oh my goodness, not more paperwork.
I think that's the word policies though, isn't it? That just, I think you're hard pressed to
it's not sexy.
Get excited over that.
No.
But even if you dive into the Latin, as I believe we did.
Greek,
the Greek actually.
Greek, polis, yeah.
Polis. So that was that one. And then so 164, the inevitable conflict in growing a business, which was a guest episode with Mike Jones.
Yes, no, thanks, Mike, for coming in on that one. That was really quite interesting, just talking about how some of these things are inevitable. You can't avoid them, you have to manage them as you grow in your business.
Indeed.
Good, I'm looking forward to listening to that one back as well. That'll be good. Okay, so that brings us to 165. So today then, getting your hands dirty.
So this is inspired by a HBR, Harvard Business Review article, which is often our, you can always tell if we haven't, or we've either been too busy or not busy.
Well, that covers most things.
when we dive into when we dive into the HBR article.
Well, I mean, we do browse them anyway because they're quite interesting. I don't know if many of our listeners take the Harvard Business Review as a regular thing.
Good artwork, isn't it? We always admire the artwork.
It's an easy read. It's a bit like reading The Economist, I think, which I always admire for its charts. I think Harvard Business Review is very good for its art.
Yeah.
You're right. And they give you that slightly longer form discussion on a topic.
Yeah.
Although these days, I've got to say, HBR is becoming very, very AI dominated. And maybe our podcast goes that way sometimes as well. But other things are happening in the world. But there were some interesting things in this, and this was one of them, wasn't it?
Yeah. So this is based off an article called The Surprising Success of Hands-On Leaders. So HBR, November, December 2025, article written by Scott Cook and Nitin Nahira. And so I thought just to acknowledge that.
Yeah. Well, I guess the title jumps out because you immediately think, oh, that's good. That justifies some of the stuff I'm beating myself up for doing. Because I think we and lots of other small businesses are guilty of being too hands-on. And here's an article coming along saying, hey, being hands-on isn't that bad, you know?
Yeah.
But its examples aren't small businesses. They're all mega companies. Toyota and Danaher and people.
And I think that's
Amazon.
we've spoken as well, haven't we, about that, you know, are you on the dance floor, are you on the balcony type of thing, and always trying to get, you know, always telling leaders to, you need to get off the dance floor, get up on the balcony, get the helicopter 360 view. But I guess we've had a few stories recently from various clients roundabout where maybe people too much time on the balcony. Don't know, they're not even looking at the dance floor maybe, or they're not understanding. I think
there has to be someone, so maybe 1 foot on the dance floor, 1 foot on the balcony. Can you do that? That's a big stretch.
That'd be a rather tall person.
That's a yoga move and a half.
That's conjuring up an image in my mind.
Maybe we need a different metaphor for that one. But the idea being that if you as the leader or owner of an organisation want to be entirely on the balcony, then is there someone else that is still doing all the things that this article proposes that is useful in your stead? And in smaller companies, there aren't enough people around, so maybe not. So I think it's trying to advocate not stepping back too far too fast to the point where you've lost that ability to shape the organisation. It's a bit of that back to the floor, you know, where the boss goes back and understands. I think you shorten feedback loops. But this article wasn't really about that, although I think that's a useful argument for it. It was more about the fact that the people who are very closely and intimately involved in the customer value end of what the business is there to do, sometimes they are best placed to design the processes. Yeah. And maybe, you know, look at the way the structure is working, and that's kind of seems to have been the tenet of what it was trying to say. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. So I think like traditional, conventional advice is focus on vision. That's what leaders should do.
Yeah, delegate. Yeah.
Delegate, stay at the detail.
Yeah.
But their article sort of says, well, the problem with that is you're sort of detached then. You're detached from what's going on day to day, and you can very quickly lose touch with either what the reality is on the shop floor, what the reality is with the customers. Yeah. And I think maybe this was quite well exemplified maybe with the McDonald's recent advert. Did you see that?
No.
So they had the chief exec of McDonald's. They've just released this new burger, the Big Arch or something or other. Pen's just fallen off the table. So McDonald's have just released this new burger, and the CEO kind of says, oh, look at our amazing new product, because that's what we all call our food, right? Yeah. So look at this product. And then he takes the tiniest bite of it, goes, that's kind of delicious, and then puts it back down and says, I'll save the rest for later, kind of thing. Like, okay. So Burger King responded brilliantly with their CEO, who said, this is our Whopper, and I'm just going to devour the whole thing. Like, and it was such a great, you know, that's detached leadership, right? That's that's not how your customers eat a big arch
You're not
burger.
talking to your customers well there, right?
You know, that's
talking to the investors,
that's
maybe.
not how they handle. You know, you don't call it a product. You know, kind of.
Yeah.
So I think that sort of maybe spending too much time in the boardroom there, and well played to the king, the Burger King,
The king of Burger King.
the king of Burger King, who did that really well. So,
But that's I suppose a different angle on that. That's about understanding customers, which you can perhaps do even from the balcony, right? But maybe he got that insight by being closer to customers. Maybe he went to a store and restaurant, I suppose they call it, and actually spoke to some customers or witnessed some interactions or something. I don't know. But the point here, I think, is not to try and say that leaders have to have a discipline. Maybe you can imagine where a leader comes up through the ranks, they have a discipline that they came up through. So maybe they were a key salesperson, or sometimes it's the FD, or sometimes it's engineering or execution. It's not to go back and do that again. It has to be broader based, doesn't it? So you have to be aware of the customer's side of things as well as the execution quality and everything that joins it all together. You can't just be a champion of whichever director has taken your place in that specialism. You've got to be a lot broader than the whole thing.
So I think the key premise is they're saying you don't scale by stepping back from the execution, the doing. You scale by shaping how it's done. So you're not in that trap then of actually doing the doing. And we spoke about this. I did write it down. Which episode was that? 150 or something. It was episode 160. The I'm busy myth that a lot of business owners have.
Yeah.
So
while your busy schedule is holding your business back.
Yeah. So kind of that sort of, it's not about being busy per se, but it's about leading the way in a very practical way of like, okay, this is how we do things.
Well, it ties in a bit to policies, and the execution of policies comes through procedures, doesn't it? So it's the board's responsibility to design the organisation, surely. And so just to step back and say, well, it's running, I'm just here to review the finances and talk to shareholders and banks. That's kind of missing the point. You still have an ongoing job to evolve the business and continuously improve it.
So they're saying good leaders don't just do the what are we doing, the kind of directional piece, but they actually shape the how as well.
But without getting so involved that you're up to your elbows in doing it. And I guess that's if we ever err on this one, it's getting too involved in execution. And part of the problem there is because you can.
Yeah.
And I guess especially in small businesses, the managers will be some of the most experienced and expert people in their discipline. So sometimes a knotty customer problem will crop up or an opportunity to add tremendous amount of value, and you dive straight in. And that's not what it's trying to advocate you doing. So that's still where I need a slap on my wrists for getting too involved.
So I think sometimes this is around, and I've probably spoken about this before, one of my words for the year, boundaries. I'm putting boundaries around things. And I think that's where, with this, so they talk about sort of 3 areas. So you could be an architect. So you can design the system. Yeah. And then you, again, like the policies point we just talked about, so design systems and define how decisions get made. Yeah. So that's something you can do, but so long as you stop at that point and you say my role is to give you the framework, then there's a boundary around that rather than doing the doing type of thing. Yeah,
and I guess everything has to start with that. You need to know that someone has thought about the process. Not you haven't just let it appear by accident. Yeah. Which, if it's not designed, it will be luck if that turned out to be the best approach. So you've got to have a process, but then there's that role that we all have of the coaching element of a leader, which you still have to be reasonably hands-on with, even if other people are doing it full time. Yeah. Show an interest, because that's how that leadership happens, right? That's how that culture flows from the top. If you never see your leader because they're in a corner office somewhere on the 7th floor and they haven't walked down onto the restaurant floor in Burger King's case, or wandered around the office with all the cubicles where people are doing work, then how do you know what they're thinking, and how do they exhibit what they're showing an interest in? Yeah.
And also setting standards, so that's kind of authentic leadership piece as well. Yeah. Around that's the kind of, that's what you can actually do to show people what good looks like. So that doesn't necessarily, again, mean doing all the work, but it does mean, and I think even small things like how do you keep your desk? How do you keep your office? How many leaders have we seen where the office is an absolute dump? Yeah. And then you go in and you think to yourself, well, if I worked here, why would I bother trying to keep my space clean, and then that cascades into, well, what's the standard of the work going to be looking like?
Well, I had the opposite once with the chief exec, who sadly is no longer with us, died very young. But his office was completely bare. He didn't even have a laptop on his desk. He got his secretary to print out relevant emails. And we're not talking that long ago, 20 years ago. So, okay, maybe that is long ago. But certainly most people were dealing with their own emails by then. But he kept his office so clean and bare. He prided himself on not being anything to do with the detail at all. I'm just here. He had very lofty ideas of his role, about strategic input and all this sort of thing, and liaising with the group company. It was a big multinational. And everybody had the view that he was just detached from reality. He didn't actually know what was really going on. Rarely had a walk around the shop floor or went to see customers other than to go and see the director of the customer. So that's where it goes the other way. And I think you're right, showing what good looks like in terms of how you behave, but also taking the time to know when has a really good piece of work been done, and making it your business, not just to rely on the employee of the month award to mop it up, but to go and personally go and say hello, say, how did that happen? That's great, fantastic, thank you very much. That's
show an
super.
interest.
Yeah, but also the opposite. When something goes wrong, maybe not do that quite so publicly, but take an interest in, well, that was a bit of a foul up, can someone just get back to me on what we're doing about that? Or can I go and speak to someone who's working on the solution? Or it tells the whole organisation what's important, doesn't it, in the eyes of the leader? Yeah. But you mustn't run the business.
No.
Mustn't get too hands-on.
So I think I think maybe easier in these big companies that the article's focusing on, things like Amazon, Toyota, etc. SMEs, we've talked about this before, isn't it? You're wearing different hats. Yeah. So again, it's that you've got to be very...
Well, Toyota's more aligned to my background from my own factory management days. The whole idea of Gemba, walking around the shop floor, or management by walking about is the American translation of it. And just having leaders walking around, and especially if you've got, in factories we used to call visual factories, where the boards are up next to every cell, which gives the key measures, and they're all handwritten on the boards by the team leader or the cell leader, so that the leader, when walking around, could stop at a board. The team leader would come across and say, "Oh, hello, how you doing? Can I help? Yeah, what's this number here? That looks very good. What's something there? Oh, yeah, it's great. We fixed this problem last week." And that interaction, because it's visible, it gives you an excuse to talk to someone. That is much more hands-on than just relying on your direct report, who has a direct report, who has a direct report, who maybe has printed out the reports for you.
Yeah.
It's very different from that level of interaction. But I'm still hung up on this fact that you've still got to have some way of designing the organisation. It's not just being there to say thank you or to show what you care about. It's having some input to, well, how should this be done then? And not relying on the once every 3 years, let's have an improvement project. It's having that culture of improving all the time, because you're looking at something with a slightly detached view, but maybe having been there before, especially in a smaller business, when you say, well, that doesn't look right. That seems to have evolved in ways that now it's become inefficient compared to the way I used to see it done, or I could imagine it being done.
But it's sort of, I suppose, marrying the two, like, I suppose, again, the purpose of the sort of the board or the chief exec is to do that environmental scanning piece as well, isn't it? They're there looking at the external environment, speaking to customers, looking at what's going on. But that's got to be married to internal processes. Yeah. And so the walking around, the being involved, the designing of those, how do you build that? And again, I think we're in a particularly... we're in a rapidly changing business environment from all different angles, AI, regulatory, geopolitical, et cetera. Those companies that can be agile, nimble, respond quickly, flexible processes, etc., are going to be the ones that probably get serious competitive advantage.
Yeah, which speaks well to the small and medium-sized sector that we sort of represent and work mainly with, doesn't it? They tend to be more nimble. And maybe it's because leaders are naturally more closely linked to the value creation chain. That's what they do. That's what they were recently doing. I think where it's fallen off is where we've seen companies grow to the point where the leaders then get detached from it, maybe against their will, but either way they detach from it. And then things start happening differently and they're not even aware of it. And you even have those moments sometimes when they go and say, well, why are we doing it that way? That seems crazy. And you realise that there's been a million steps from where the way it used to be done to there, and it's all been lost in the midst of time. But as soon as they look at it, they think, well, that's crazy, because when my granddad used to do it, or when I joined here, it was this way, or you incorporate a bit of corporate memory.
Exactly. So they talk about 5 behaviours of hands-on leaders. So we could go through those quickly. So one is they obsess over customer value. I think we did a podcast, I can't remember which one it was, but not in recent memory, maybe in the 140s, around looking at, are you actually listening to your customers?
Yeah.
Are you getting that feedback and kind of bringing that into the business? So obsess over that key question of what does the customer actually measure? How does the customer measure value?
And it's not vanity metrics.
No.
They wouldn't. The customer doesn't have a view internally to your organisation
No.
on efficiency and that sort of thing. They just want to know what they see.
Yeah. So for Amazon, they talk about price and speed of delivery. How quickly can you get that? And they're not. I was listening to someone talk about Amazon the other day, saying they were never a bookseller. They were a logistics company.
Yeah, they designed their own warehouses, didn't they? I think they scoured the world for warehouse experts and concluded that there was none that was good enough.
Right.
And they designed their own warehousing software and systems, and they became the expert. A bit like Musk did with his rockets. He scoured the world for experts, couldn't find any, so recruited a few, learned from them and sacked them.
He was in my dream last night, Elon Musk. I just remembered.
He was.
I was doing a podcast with him.
Were you?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I think it might have been this podcast. He was the guest.
Right.
And I was just asking him what it was like to be a billionaire, and like, are all of your companies going to be, $1 billion companies? And he was just sitting there, just chatting about it. It's kind of weird. Just remember that.
Did you grill him on how his algorithms on X were feeding hatred?
No, I didn't get into that really. It was more
views.
It was very considered. It's quite slow. It's like slow responses, so it took a while to get out of him.
He's not a slow talker, though, is he?
No, but he can be quite considered in his answers, can't he? He can pause. He's got the power of the pause down, I think. Right. So, but yeah, that's just remembered that. She said that. It's like, oh yeah, flashback.
More of a nightmare then. You're reflecting on it. That's going to lead through into buy another Tesla this year and everything. It's a whole fraught decision. Do you want to? Anyway, that's a subject for another podcast. Yeah. How much does the organisation benefit or get hindered by the personality of its leader? Yeah, especially in a consumer business. Doesn't matter. You're just running the company, right? I guess hundreds of thousands of people are employed by that company. It's not their fault, is it, that their leader is or whatever he is, depending which company you're looking at. Okay, so obsess over customer value, not about vanity and internal metrics, but things that the customer would experience.
So the next one was about architecting how the work gets done, which is back to your previous point about how do you design the systems. Yeah. So thinking about what's the team look like, what does the internal structures, how do decisions get made, policies, procedures, processes.
Well, we talked about delegation of authority as one of the policies, didn't we, on our policy episode? And that was one of the strongest points that came through, I think. That there's a lot of assumptions made within companies about who can decide what. And actually, in practice, unless it's written down, people lower down the chain don't have that authority really, because they're worried that by it not being written down, they can, they're going to get pulled up on it if it's a wrong decision. So you're right, having those decision-making processes properly declared, established, hopefully written down. But the whole team structure thing and the processes, that seems to be the nub of it, really. If we haven't got that right, we did an episode a little while ago which said if you're overly busy, it's a sign that your business model is wrong. Yeah. You've got something to do with structures or processes or the markets you're trying to deliver. That's what's wrong. The symptom is that you're all overly busy. Yeah. So look deeper into it than just hiring more people to carry on doing the wrong thing.
I say speed and quality of design, not hope for. Hope isn't a strategy, right? That's the kind of you've got to actually put some thought into this.
Hope is the vision without a plan.
Yeah. So so architect how the work gets done, and I think as well thinking maybe about it in those terms. You're the architect, not the builder, type of thing. No disrespect to builders there, but that puts a boundary around it, right? If you become almost a player manager in that, so you're going to design it.
Well, the builders still add all the value, you could argue. They're at the coal face, mixing the metaphors. But you're right, someone's got to design how it's going to be built. Yeah. Okay, so that's where the leaders do have a role. And I suppose if you were in a bigger organisation, you could say, I employ people to do that role, which is sort of the same sort of thing. But in the SME world that we're talking about, you're unlikely to have a department called organisational design or solution engineering or something. These are all just parts of other people's jobs, aren't they?
Well, I think as well, you might have as well a few people, well, particularly the owners, obviously, but a few people who have been around for a long time and maybe some who haven't. Yeah. So you somehow capture that value as well into Not to say the way we've done it around here is always the best way. Challenge that, but there's a lot of organisational history, often in a few people. There's probably a Pareto there or something, isn't there?
Didn't you have your square root theory? Where did you pick up that
from? That's not my theory, but I think it might have been I heard it from Jordan Peterson actually.
Right. That
the square root of the total number of people in the organisation contributes 50% of the value.
And it's quite stark, isn't it? It's a real boost again for smaller businesses. That if there's 4 of you, that's about right. Yeah. 2 are delivering half. But if there's 100 of you, then 10 are delivering half.
Yeah.
And it could I don't know if it's backed up by research, but it sort of sounds right, doesn't it?
Well, if you think about a company that's got 100 people in it, I think there's probably 10 people. Maybe they're not doing all the work, but they're certainly directing the traffic, and there's the go-to people. There's probably 10 problem solvers.
Yeah, that really make things happen.
When there's a fire, they either make things happen, solve a crisis, or just get stuff done, or thinking outside the box to, where's the next project or the next idea coming from. And maybe that's just the way it has to be, because otherwise, if everyone was thinking that way, you'd have...
Well, it's an argument for breaking larger organisations down into smaller groups, which in manufacturing we used to call cells, and you'd have smaller groups on the shop floor, all largely autonomous, but dealing with the whole of a value chain.
Well, I'm sure they've done research on this for like special forces and things as well, around like size of teams, or like cell or team or whatever. Like 4 people is normally about
4 to 6 maybe. Platoon or whatever they call it.
Maybe kind of
not platoon, they call it. Yeah, the smallest units.
Well, everybody's got.
So this is the second of your 5 behaviours of the hands-on leaders. Then the first being that focus on the customer metrics, and the second one being the designing of the work, the processes, the decisions, the team structures. Yeah.
So the other one is So the third one is around the sort of Toyota mindset of using experiments, not opinions.
Well, managing by data as well, isn't it?
So test ideas, let the data decide.
Yeah.
We used to do a lot of this, I guess, as part of our strategy processes back in the day.
Yeah.
What was it? Where to play, how to win.
That's
type of approach.
What's the least likely thing to be true that needs to be true for this strategy to work?
Yeah.
And you test that one first, because it's most likely to fail, and if it fails, then you can discount the strategy.
And that was the whole. What was it? What was it called? The lean business model. Was it the lean business model?
The lean business model.
Was it called the
lean startup?
The lean startup. That was it, wasn't it? Eric Rice.
That's it.
It was. And that was all about testing your assumptions. Go out, get some actual data, make a decision based on that.
Yeah, was it not good to great as well? Fire bullets, then cannonballs.
Yeah, maybe
that sort of thing.
But that's
experiments.
The idea.
The point is, let's solve every argument with an experiment rather than an argument. If you're not sure, try it.
Yeah.
We often had these debates about, what do you think about this marketing campaign or that web page or this design for such and such? Well, no one has the right to say they know.
Yeah.
Try it. And the right answer may change over time, depending on what your competitors are doing, what the mood of your market is, all sorts of expectations. So, that's the third behaviour of hands-on leaders then. They encourage experimentation rather than letting people's opinions dominate.
And I think that's a cultural thing as well. That goes back to your culture. So do people have... what does failure look like in your organisation? If people fail and it's seen as a negative thing, then people aren't going to experiment. If failure is seen as a lesson learning, because it's framed in a way that is we've set out to try and learn something, wasn't what we expected. Is that even failure? It's just a different.
Well, was it not Meta or Facebook that had the mantra of move fast and break things?
What, like society?
Yeah, that's it.
That one.
Mission accomplished.
So experiments. So the fourth one was teach the toolkit. So leaders don't just kind of review, they teach people how to solve problems.
Yes.
And they pass on the knowledge. And I think maybe I'm sure we did one, did we not do an episode around, I don't know, but I'm sure we've done one around leaders' behaviours. And I think this is where you get imposter syndrome coming in.
Yeah.
You could say, people try and be defensive and silo. This is my bit of knowledge. This is my USP in the organisation. Yeah. I don't want to teach it. Well,
but you've got to be a very authentic leader.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much space in there for the imposter syndrome as a leader, is there?
No.
I think it's okay to accept that I may not be a subject matter in the area that someone who's working for you is. That's what you've employed them for. But you have to still be confident that you deserve that position of leading them, because you have to take them through this process.
Yeah.
It's a flaw I know that I have, where I'm rushing all the time to fix the problem rather than to help somebody else to fix it. And that's a very short-term view. It's just, maybe it's selfish because you get the dopamine hit then rather than somebody else.
But yeah, I think if you've got that kind of, I don't know, longer-term view of it, or just that, it's, I used to say this to someone who was leading an organisation that I knew a while ago, who was very much didn't want to put people into a position that they thought maybe were better than them.
Oh, right.
And I say that's not the role of a leader. The role of the leader is to identify who's good at different things, better than them at different things, put that together and then work with them, because they're all going to still have their own insecurities or things, blind spots or whatever. But then you that's the job of the leader, is to coach those people and to bring those people on. That way you get a much better team, because if you only hire at your capacity as a leader, you're limiting the capacity of the organisation to however good you are.
Sure, and maybe you have to accept that there are times when it will outgrow you.
Yeah.
And that you just have another challenge somewhere else.
Yeah.
Your work here is done.
Yeah. So
okay, so we were going through the 5 behaviours: obsess over customer value, architect how the work gets done, experiment, teach the toolkit, don't just do it.
Then drive continuous improvement is the final one. So they say weak companies run transformation programs, whereas strong companies improve every day.
Yeah.
And as I was reading it and reflecting on it, I thought 2 questions came to my mind that you could ask every day. One is, what did we improve today? And then the other one would be, what could we improve tomorrow? I thought, imagine if you ran that for a week as an experiment, where every day you just said to everybody, right, we're gonna have a whiteboard, we're gonna write down what we've improved today. And even if it's like, I don't know, we've figured out how to clean the coffee machine faster, or I don't know, like little improvements. It's like kind of Team Sky, right? 1% improvements compound over time, and you see that. But I thought that would then really focus if everyone just had to say, right, what did we actually improve today? What got better today? And then what's tomorrow's job?
That's really hard to do, isn't it? That's where you need a leader's discipline, because if you're too involved in the delivery, as we find in busy periods, you don't even have time to think. You're just head down, getting on with stuff. And that's a real leadership role, to stop and look back, look at a higher level and say, how is this whole thing working? What could we improve on that? Yeah, there's a little one that Gary came up with this morning, where just the way we allocate tasks, it doesn't flag it up in the right way. So if we can fix that, it's a small little thing, little automation within our project management software, probably take 10 minutes to fix. But that means in future, that's fixed forever then, doesn't it? And we could put that on your whiteboard. Yeah.
I think if you wrote that down or put it in a spreadsheet or something or wherever, if you actually did that, it'd be interesting to see after a couple of months. Were you really driving it?
You can do that then?
There we go. I'll do it.
You do that.
Action taken.
Okay.
Maybe we should have action of the week in the podcast. Who's going to...
Well, that's setting yourself up for a rod for your own back.
Make it...
Right, so they're the 5 behaviours then.
Yes.
Customer value, architect how it's done, use experiments, not just debate, teach the toolkit, and drive continuous improvement. I sort of quite like that, because it's not saying to everybody who's a leader, do the work yourself. Absolutely not. That's the worst thing to do. You've got to be able to stand back, put your hands in your pockets, and let other people do it to grow.
Yeah.
But it's not stand back so far that you've lost touch with how the work is designed, how the customers are valuing stuff, how we make decisions, and all those sort of things that's just talked about.
I think you're still steering the ship, aren't you? But
or someone needs to be. And maybe that's the caveat in a slightly larger organisation. If there's a couple of hundred of you, you don't necessarily have to be the one doing all those things, but you need to know that that's the culture and that someone is who is designing the work. You know, we used to work for a large manufacturer and they didn't have a production engineering department. And that amazed me. I think, well, you've got hundreds of people here running processes that are just here from time immemorial. No one's employed to improve them. Or to come up with the latest tech or the latest product from a machinery supplier or something. It relies on accident to get introduced. So you need to know that someone's doing that. And in a small organisation, you don't have those teams, so you step into that gap.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting stuff. Very good. Well, thank you for that. That's good. I think we've got this. The warning bell on that is don't take that so literally that as a leader you just become very hands-on. You've got to have the right balance between still being involved, understanding all those 5 things that we just talked about, and still being the leader.
It's being comfortable in the tension between those two, isn't it? I think
tricky one.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. Inspiration for our listeners.
Live in the tension.
Thank you very much, Richard.
No problem.
And thank you again for listening to another episode of the SME Growth Podcast, episode 165. If you think anybody else might be interested in that, then tell them. If you don't think they would, then tell us. And in the meantime, good luck with your business.